Hi everyone, this is part one of a three-part video I'm doing on the new 5th scale servo that recently came out. The Spectrum S9020 high voltage servo for 5th scale vehicles. And I'm going to do a review. I just got this in the mail yesterday, so I'm going to do some unpackaging. This is what it comes in. You get a little box here. We're going to open it up and see just what this thing includes. This is going to go into my Losi 5 5th scale. Comes in a nice little box. We're going to open this up, pull it open, I guess this way, and out it comes. Spectrum S9020. Pretty little thing. And we have the servo itself. And what else do we have in here? Take this rubber thing out. Looks like we got a couple of plastic servo horns. I won't be using those because I use a metal one myself. But it looks like you get two rather identical ones here with it, if you should choose to use those. And here's your rubber isolator mounts. So when you mount it, to take the vibration off, your 4 mounting screws and the little disc, and even a servo bolt and the washer that you attach your horn to the spline with. And finally, you have your plug-in. So when they say this is a plug-and-play, they're not kidding. What's different about this servo, and I've never owned one before, that you'd actually take the end of it and plug it in to your actual servo. And what's nice is if you go to remove the servo from your vehicle, you don't have to unplug your wire from your receiver pack and undo the wire through your receiver box and stuff like that. It's a real hassle. You can just unplug it from the servo, remove it, and away you go. So it's a lot less complicated. What I'd like to do is compare this particular servo to the Savix 0236 that I'm currently running and is a popular choice, which is very comparable to the original Losi servo that comes with the Losi to begin with. So let's compare. I got all 3 of them here. Over here, we have the new Spectrum one. In the middle, we have a Losi S900. And then over here, we have a Savix 0236. Now, the Savix 0236, from what I understand, is pretty identical to the original Losi one that comes in it. Certainly size-wise and whatnot. They're both direct drop-ins. And it seems that the Savix might be a little bit heavier. I haven't measured them. I don't have the specs on both of those, comparing those. But the Savix seems a little bit heavier. Now, the Spectrum, on the other hand, if you put that up, it's not as deep. If you bring this up and measure up the mounting points, as you can see on the bottom here, it's not as deep as the Savix or the regular one. So it's a little bit... Indeed, a little bit shallower, and I believe that's going to make it a little bit lighter, which leads us to our next topic, the specifications. First of all, you'll notice on the box, I've noticed that this says that it's actually waterproof. This is one of their waterproof servos. I noticed Savix is coming out with a bunch, and Spectrum's come out with one as well. It doesn't say water resistant; it says waterproof. Now, I'm not quite sure what that means, but I'm sure it would handle probably a great deal of rain or something like that, or maybe if you even hosed it off without removing it from your vehicle. I don't know. I'm not going to put it through the test, but that's kind of a nice thing. It's being advertised as waterproof. Another thing that's different on this new Spectrum servo is it says it'll handle up to 8.4 volts. Okay, now your Savix and your regular Losi one are only advertising. In fact, here's a Savix box, 7.4 volts. But indeed, your Spectrum is advertising 8.4 as well, exclusively rather, where these aren't. Okay, some of the specs on these 3, just to compare, your Savix versus the Spectrum. Let's talk about weight first of all. Now, your Savix weighs 200 grams, if that means anything to you. 200 grams. Whereas your Spectrum only weighs 142 grams. So for you racers that are always trying to shave some weight off your vehicle for racing purposes, considerably lighter. 142 grams versus the Savix of 200 grams. So that's quite a bit lighter, in my opinion. Also, I'm going to quote some of these speed ratings and the torque ratings at 7.4 volts, okay? Because these two servos, the Savix and the regular Losi, aren't even rated for 8.4. So as a fair comparison, we're gonna compare the two at 7.4. Okay, the Savix 0236 against the new Spectrum. Now the Savix at 7.4 puts out 555.5 ounces per inch, as they put it, pounds of torque. 555.5. Okay, whereas the Spectrum at 7.4 is putting out 910, okay, ounces per inch. So 555 versus 910 at 7.4 is a huge difference, in my opinion. And I hope this doesn't disappoint me, because it's gotten really good reviews. Let's talk about the speed. Now this is where it's kind of a flip-flop. Your Savix is actually a little bit quicker, okay? 0.17, okay, the speed at 60 degrees, as they put it. 0.17 per second versus 0.23 on the new Spectrum. Are you going to notice that? 0.17 versus 0.23 of a second? I doubt it. But you know, apples to apples, your Savix is indeed just a slight bit faster, but I don't think you're going to notice that at all. It's really the torque is what you're after in this particular servo to handle the steering job on these heavy fifth scales. And up until now, we really haven't had too many choices. We've had your plain old, you know, the Savix 0236, the high-techs ones that people are using that are getting, you know, again, getting around 500, 600 torque ratings. But the new Spectrum's up here at 910, and it is a $199 price tag. Certainly cheaper than your big old monster beast if you have $534 to spend on your high-tech 1000, which also involves some other components you have to buy. I guess it's the mega granddaddy to turn those wheels on your big fifth scale, but that's a little too much for me, and I think your average person to spend $500 on a servo. I had a hard time spending $200 on this. I actually got mine from DDM, and with the DDM code, you saved 5%, so it brought it down to $189 shipped. And who knows, maybe they'll put it on DDM deal of the day, you know, in the near future, and you'll get it even cheaper. Okay, so the next two videos will be actually of running first the Savix and then the Spectrum in my Losi 5T. Okay, I'm going to do some turning stunts with it and see how she holds, the Savix versus this one, and it'll be two separate videos. And I do want to point out that I'm using the Savix, or excuse me, the Team Hoonage dual servo saver and servo arm. I did notice that did help my steering. Shortly after I went to the Savix servo, after my original one burned out, I didn't notice any difference from the original Losi to the Savix 0236, but I did notice an increase in my steering a little bit when I did add that Team Hoonage dual servo arm. I don't know why. In theory, it shouldn't be any better, but I did notice it was better. I was getting around the track better. Even my friend Danny noticed it was somewhat better. But unfortunately, you still do get some servo fade with the Savix, and they're claiming that you're really not going to get hardly any of that with the Spectrum. So with that, the higher torque rating, the fact that it's waterproof, the plug and play, you can unplug it right from the servo, and the fact that it's a direct drop-in to your Losi is all pluses in my opinion. So I'm looking forward to good things with this. Stay tuned to video 2 and 3. And talk is cheap. I just gave you some of the ratings right now, and you know, the torque and speed ratings. But the proof is in the pudding when you see it work. So I'm looking forward to doing some tight turns and maneuvers with each of these servos, and seeing how they hold up. And I'm going to be installing this in my Losi tomorrow, because we're going to be running on the track this weekend, and I'm hoping it'll fare well on the track around the turns and whatnot, and really really help me to drive better, because God knows I need all the help I can get. But anyways, that's your Spectrum S9020. This one is specifically designed for this to get the steering job done. And of course they have the S9021, I believe it is, to handle your throttle and brake application. Same type of servo, waterproof, plug and play, the whole shot. I believe the torque ratings are a little lower. You don't need quite the torque on your throttle and brake application. So just wanted to show you, what it comes with and so forth, the plug and play, and some of the specs compared to a Savix 0236 or your original low-C servo. And we'll go from there. Look forward to seeing you out in the yard and doing some maneuvers with this new Spectrum servo to see how it fares. It's relatively new. Some guys on the Lossy forum have been running it for a couple, 3 or 4 months, and they said no problems thus far. And I want you to see it perform for yourself, so you can make a decision on whether you want to drop close to a couple $100 on this, and if it's worth it. And over time, I'm sure we'll see if it's going to give us longevity and if it's going to hold up. I've been running my 2 Savixes I got, both 0236s, for both my brake and throttle and my steering in my low-C for a 2-year period. And so far, so good. I've been very happy with them. They've held up thus far. So we'll see what happens with this. And I'll see you outside in the next video. Thank you for watching, and happy hobbying.